Hi, I'm Timothy Maurice, and I'm your behavioral psychology author, bringing you inspiring conversations about the work between the U.S. and Africa and what's possible. And I'm delighted to be joined by two extraordinary gentlemen, Mr. Gary Klein and Mr. Honorio Manuel. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'm delighted to be joined by Honorio Manuel. He's the CEO of MozParks. How are you, Honorio?
Good. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
And, of course, we've got Gary Klein. He's the CEO of Kata Energy. Welcome.
Thank you. Also my pleasure to be here, Tim.
We are extraordinarily excited to have two members of the Mozambique U.S Chamber of Commerce, and we want to focus on the incredible power of what can be accomplished when you bring the brightest, most innovative minds from the U.S. and Africa together. Gary, let's start with you. Let's talk a little bit about the work you do at Kata Energy. Why is it important to both America and Africa?
Well, to the U.S., it's important that we comply with the terms of the Paris Accord that was signed, as soon as the President Biden got into office. What it allows for is to bring much needed investment into Africa and for us to source the debt and finance required for technology-based projects that reduce emissions in places like MozParks.
Yes, absolutely. When we look quickly, before we come to you, Honorio, you're one of the key leaders in carbon markets. Let's talk quickly about your background and how you got to be, as a person of color, a leader in carbon markets.
Well, I actually started in Africa, Lagos, Nigeria, on what we call a landfill gas to BTU gas type of project. Back in those days, the Clinton Foundation was still active in that market space. I worked for a company based in Lagos for maybe 4 years before I uprooted and joined my wife in Trinidad and Tobago. And I worked in the oil and gas emission reduction sector until we relocated back in the U.S. during the COVID.
Yep.
In 2020.
Awesome. What a journey. Honorio, you coming out of Mozambique, some fascinating projects are happening in Mozambique. Tell us a little bit about MozParks, what you're doing as CEO there.
Indeed. Thank you very much for inviting us. MozParks is the leading developer and operator of industrial parks, special economic zones, and industrial free zones. We have been operating in Mozambique for the last 25 years, and we have developed 3 industrial parks, one in the southern part of Mozambique, in Maputo, in the capital, and 2 industrial parks in the northern part of Mozambique. We have attracted more than 50 companies coming from 17 different nations, which means that our park, it's a global park and can host any kind of company or country. And we create more than 15,000 jobs in Mozambique. So we are very impactful parks, because we believe that the driver of Mozambique and Africa is the industrialization. And that's why we've decided recently to take this strategic partnership with Kata, because talking about industrialization, it's impossible not to talk about energy.
Yes.
And it's not any sort of energy, because we want to develop our park in a very sustainable way. And Kata also has that sustainable way, because of the different sort of energy that they can develop with us. We are very keen to take this cooperation forward.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the work you guys are doing together and the magic you've been able to create together from the U.S. to Africa. Share a little bit about why it matters to the continent.
Well, emission reductions matters to the globe, okay? And Africa is not responsible for all of the additional CO2 in the atmosphere.
Sure.
It's the developing countries that's responsible, or sometimes we say the rich countries. our number one customer is Switzerland.
Yep.
Right now, Switzerland is key on buying these carbon credits from countries like Mozambique.
Yep.
And we have signed, the Swiss have signed an agreement with Mozambique to work on technology-based projects. And MozParks is one of the key targets for our collaboration. And we've got a number of hydrogen-based, biomass-based, solar, geothermal mix of projects that we can develop, and make these projects investment grade inside those parks, which are naturally hard to abate emission source.
Yes. I want to congratulate you, Honorio, on your new position at the Chamber. Share quickly, what are you excited about as the new director at the Chamber?
Well, it's very exciting, but very challenging as well. But I'm quite confident that looking at the current stage of Mozambique, the opportunities that Mozambique offers, which is also linked to the current kind of legal framework that the government of Mozambique has been taking to make Mozambique more attractive, it's going to be very interesting to take our opportunities to the U.S. and, of course, attract U.S. investors. And we have already a considerable number of U.S. investors in Mozambique. I can talk about the big ones like ExxonMobil. It's already very keen to invest in Mozambique, but we have these small ones, which are very important because the economy of Mozambique is made up of 98% of SMEs. So we as the new leadership of the Chamber, we will be open to, of course, attract from a very small to the big companies, and we are very confident that there are conditions to attract investors in the U.S. to Mozambique, and most importantly, we are ready to host them. And this is going to be a mutual benefit projects. We are in the U.S. not really to be asking for a sort of favors, but to offer real business opportunities to the business people. And that can be made a lot of profit out of Africa, out of Mozambique. That's why we come here to tell the investors, and we have good interaction with the investors for the last 2 days.
Well, speaking of opportunities and entry, let's wrap this up. Let's talk a little bit about why it's important to get MBEs, minority businesses in America, involved in this work. People think it's difficult, and it sounds big, and it sounds overwhelming. Why is it easier than people think?
It's not difficult at all. I'm a American DBE, MBE, Hub Zone contractor.
Yes.
And I've been working in this market space for 20 years. But he said ExxonMobil is there. They're there for the LNG farms, oil and gas, and things like that. There would be a source of capital because of the multinational nature of the company itself.
Yes.
Like a Chevron and a Shell and the other companies that we work with. So the key to get minorities involved is for the U.S. government to get involved with these exchanges.
Yep.
The national determined contribution under the Paris Accord by the U.S. have been signed. It was signed and adopted by the president. On page 21 of that agreement, they clearly say they may or may not, go through these exchanges. So the question is, why do Swiss, why do the Sweden, why do the Singapore group, the Japanese, all are part of this market landscape when it's a wide open portal for minorities, in America to get involved and help make these arrangements happen and protect the planet from climate change. That's something that can happen right now. There's no bonding or financing necessary. It's just making connections like we have.
Yes.
And, make the projects go. The technology that the DOE has developed over the past 20 years, it's a lot of it's sitting on the shelves and licensed with other companies. We've got capital that could come in the form of donations, to make these trades work. All we need is a 2-paragraph agreement, between the U.S. and Mozambique to say, we're going to make it so we agree and sign it off, and it's done.
Well, you guys are the pilot. You are the hope. You are the inspiration. Gary Klein, thank you so much
Thank you
for joining us. Thank you so much, Honorio Manuel.
It was a pleasure.
And it's possible. They are showing us the way for the U.S. and Africa to work together. It's not that challenging. I want to thank our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Commerce, MBDA Federal Procurement Center, KDM and Associates. Thank you so much for joining us. And please spread the word about what's possible between these continents. And to our colleagues in Mozambique, thank you as well.